Hi, this is Marin, and I'm going to show you how to add a twirling element to your cards. To start with, you want to make sure you have all the supplies that are listed in the tutorial, and I did request that you have 2 card bases. So go ahead and put one of the card bases aside, and we're just going to be working with one of them right now. And this is the one that we're going to do the majority of the work on. You are going to need your clear ruler and a pen or pencil, and you're going to mark 3/8 of an inch in on both sides of this base. These are basically going to be guidelines for us to cut on. And then I'm going to go 1 inch from each of those marks because I'm going to be creating 1-inch tabs, which are going to support the twirling element. And then I'm going to go 1 3/4 of an inch. And just to make it easier to cut to, I'm going to go ahead and make that 1 1/4 inch dash into a giant line. Again, don't worry about marking this up because you're going to be covering it. So these are basically our guidelines for cutting. So I'm going to cut along that first 3/8 of an inch mark all the way up, and then 1 inch from there, and you're going to stop right at that 1 3/4 inch line that you made on your card. So you open this up, and these are your tabs that you're going to be using, just like you would if you were adding a pop-up element to your card. So you want to go ahead and fold along those, and I just kind of eyeball and fold. The only thing you just want to be careful of is you want to make sure that you don't add an additional crease to it. I did that when I was trying some of my samples. So there we go. So now we're going to be using a skewer or straw to actually be the twirling part of it. So I want to cut little slits into these tabs so that the skewer or straw will fit behind there. So I have a wooden skewer just from my kitchen drawer that I grabbed. I guess a straw would work too. I'm going to pull it because I'm going to use this end of it, and then I'm just going to make sure that that works and that it can move around. Then obviously it's too long, so I'm going to take a little heavier duty scissor and trim off the edge, and then we'll be adding some buttons to the tips of them. Be careful of flying skewers. So there we go. So now we have our main part. We're going to add the string, which will actually be the motor that will twirl this. So about 3/4 of an inch in and a little bit up from the skewer. You're going to add a hole. I have a pretty small hole punch here. You might want to have a larger one if you have a hard time with threading a needle, because you're going to take your string, which is a little bit thicker, and you're going to start with threading it through the back, and then the important part is to adhere it, because many times I've started to touch the string and it gets back through the hole and you have to do it again. So we're going to adhere it to the back side, and I'm just going to add a glue dot because that's a good thing at keeping it in place. Hopefully it'll work. And do know that if you add a glue dot to the back, it will stick to the paper that you're working on or the surface you're working on, so you want to hold it up a little bit so it doesn't do that. And then I'm going to wrap the string around the skewer a few times, or your straw, whatever you're using. And I'm going to try not to overlap it. Just kind of go back and forth about 3 or 4 times, just so it has enough so that it will be moving. And then I'm going to stick it through my other hole. And when you do this, because like I said, you want to make sure you have a heavier cardstock. It's not going to be a really heavy-duty twirl. You're going to want to make sure that you know, that you're still gentle with it, because it is still a handmade card. But when you don't have that second base on it, as you're playing with it, you'll see it does give a little bit. So this is about where I want it to be. So I'm going to add my glue dot to the back. I can see that it freely moves. Both directions when it's rotating. So now basically, now that I've got the twirl, I'm going to be doing the decorating part. So you have the 2.5 by 2, so here's our 2, and what I did is I actually used my score pal, and I scored at the 1 inch on both of these, because this is the part that is going to be decorated, and on my sample I added some hearts, some nestability hearts. That is going to be glued on either side, and it's not going to be glued in the middle. So I noticed you don't have to add that score line, but when you do, it allows for more movement from there. The other decorative element that you can add is the 1 1/4 by 2 1/4 strips that I just stamped with some Unity stamps and just adhered so that it kind of covers it up a little bit more. And then you will add, I added these little buttons from Basic Gray just with my glue dots to the tips so that the edges were not hard. And then after you've added all those parts, then you're going to want to actually adhere it to your base. And then of course have your card front. So there you go. The only other tips that I have is once you get those buttons in there and then your twirling element, that you want to make sure that whatever you do to decorate this, that it doesn't impede the movement. So you'll see that my string on this one ends up going down a little bit after I played with it a little bit. So there you go. And it should move when you are opening and closing. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with that.